You ever have one of those moments where you're just driving home, minding your own business, and then bam, something hits you like a punch to the gut? That was me, rolling down Old Mill Road in my beat-up Chevy, the kind of truck that's seen more dirt than pavement. When I saw it, smoke curling up over my soybean fields, thick and black, like some angry spirit rising from the earth. I'm Jack Harlan, retired fire chief, now a farmer trying to keep my dad's old land alive. And let me tell you, that smoke wasn't just a problem, it was a declaration of war. I'd been at the co-op all morning, same as every Wednesday for the past 5 years since I hung up my helmet and took over the farm in Willow Creek. It was a crisp fall day, perfect for harvest, the kind where the air smells like hay and second chances. But as I turned that last bend, my dog Rusty whining low in the passenger seat, I saw black plumes choking the horizon, right where my best soybean rows hugged the edge of the fancy Pine Hollow subdivision. At first, I thought maybe some idiot was burning trash, but the closer I got, the more my stomach twisted. This wasn't a bonfire. This was my livelihood going up in flames. I floored it, the truck rattling like it felt my panic, and by the time I hit the gravel drive, the smoke was so thick it stung my throat. I didn't even park properly, just threw it in gear, jumped out, and ran to the field's edge. What I saw stopped me dead. Flames, not the soft kind that flicker over dry grass, but roaring, hungry tongues swallowing whole rows of soybeans, turning green to ash in seconds. And there, just beyond my rusted wire fence, stood Linda Carver Pine Hollow's HOA Queen Bee, arms crossed, her crisp white blazer glowing against the chaos like she was posing for a real estate ad. She wasn't calling for help. She wasn't screaming. She was just watching like my burning field was her personal Netflix special. "Linda," I shouted through the smoke, my voice cracking. "You call this in?" She turned, slow as molasses, flicked her sunglasses down her nose, and said, "Why would I? This is your mess, Jack." Her voice was cool, like she was scolding a kid for tracking mud. My fists clenched so hard my knuckles popped, but I didn't have time to argue. I bolted back to the truck, grabbed the old radio I kept for emergencies, old habits from the fire station, and called it in. "This is Jack Harlan. We got a fire in the soybean field off Old Mill, near Pine Hollow. Light winds, dry crops, send engines now." My voice was steady, but my hands are shaking. I wasn't losing this field, not today, not to her. The engines screamed, and 10 minutes later, my old crew, guys I'd trained back in the day, spilling out with hoses and grim faces. The chief, a kid named Tommy I used to mentor, took one look at the burn line and followed the smoke right to Linda's pristine lawn. "Origins near the fence," he muttered, binoculars in hand. I nodded, my jaw tight. I know exactly where it started. He didn't push, just gave orders, and the crew moved fast. My irrigation ditch slowed the fire some, but it had already chewed through half an acre. As they fought the blaze, I spotted a melted gas canister, the kind you'd buy at a hardware store, half buried in the ash on my side of the fence. Not mine. Never was. I bagged it with a gloved hand, my gut telling me this wasn't an accident. Linda was gone by then, her silver BMW parked crooked in her driveway, like she'd peeled out in a hurry. But the grass near her fence post was scorched, footprints burned into the dirt, leading straight to her side. I didn't confront her, not yet. I'd learned in 30 years fighting fires that you don't charge in blind. You wait. You gather evidence. You let the truth burn hotter than the flames. And trust me, it was about to. This wasn't the first time Linda Carver had come for me. When she moved into Pine Hollow 3 years ago, she showed up with a tray of store-bought cookies and a smile that didn't reach her eyes, all welcome to the neighborhood, and let's keep things tidy. She just snagged a spot on the HOA board, and you could tell she loved the power like it was her oxygen. At first, it was small stuff. Letters about my tractor being too loud during harvest, complaints about the farm smell from my compost pile, even though it was sealed tighter than a bank vault. I brushed it off. My land's been zoned agricultural since my granddad's day, long before their McMansions sprouted up. They had their cul-de-sacs and fake lawns. I had roots. But then Linda got bold. She showed up with 2 HOA lackeys, Greg, a nervous guy who always looked like he wanted a bolt, and Susan, who smiled like she was selling you a timeshare. They handed me a pamphlet about their community enhancement plan and suggested I rip out my soybeans for something prettier like lavender or hedges. I laugh at Cal and help it. "This isn't a petting zoo, Linda," I said. "This land feeds my family." Her smile twitched, and I saw a flicker of something mean in her eyes, like I'd just challenged her whole world. After that, the letters came weekly. My fence was unsightly, my equipment lowered property values. Even a rogue chicken that wandered too close to their sidewalk was apparently a public safety crisis. Always signed in her perfect cursive, L. Carver. It wasn't just paperwork. Someone painted dirtbag on my mailbox in neon green. Then a pile of trash-rotten fruit and coffee grounds ended up in my irrigation ditch. I installed motion cameras after that, but the culprits were careful, always just out of frame. Whispers started. 2 neighbors who used to buy my eggs stopped coming by. Kids who'd wave from their bikes now crossed the street. Linda was waging a quiet war, and I was the enemy. Then I heard from Old Man Jenkins, a neighbor who still bought my soybeans, that Linda had pitched a plan at an HOA meeting to slap me with an environmental hazard complaint. She called my farm an eyesore that tanked their property values, even tried to divert HOA funds to hire a consultant to dig up dirt on me literally. Jenkins slipped me the meeting notes, and I saw her words in black and white. "If we can't zone him out, we'll make it impossible for him to stay." I still didn't think she'd go as far as arson. I mean, who burns a man's crops over a view? The night of the fire, I couldn't sleep. The smell of smoke clung to everything: me clothes, my hair, even Rusty's fur. I sat on the porch, coffee gone cold, staring at the dark fields. I'd seen fires before, fought them, lost friends to them, but this one felt personal, like someone had reached into my chest and yanked out a piece of my dad's legacy. By morning, I was back in the field, boots crunching through ash, looking for answers. That's when I found more melted canisters, bits of white fabric, burned and frayed, the same color as Linda's blazer. I took photos, every angle, every detail, my old firefighter instincts kicking in. Then I checked the footage from my hidden camera tucked inside a scarecrow my nephew named Captain, wearing my old fire chief's cap. That thing saw everything. At 2:07 a.m., a figure slipped through a gap in my fence, carrying a bundle. They crouched, sparked a flame, then another, watching them grow. 12 minutes later, they walked back to Pine Hollow, calm as you please. The hoodie hid their face, but the stride sharp, clipped, like they were marching to a board meeting, screamed Linda. I backed up the footage, printed stills, labeled every timestamp. It wasn't airtight, but it was close. I called my lawyer, Mike Russo, a no-nonsense guy who'd served as a JAG officer and hated bullies like Linda. He listened, didn't interrupt, then said, "You got backups of that footage?" I did 3 copies, just in case. "Good," he said. "Don't confront her. Let the fire marshal handle it." By noon, Marshall Evans was at my gate, a guy I'd worked with back in the day. He took the SD card, the bag canisters, and walked the burn line with me. He found a chemical trail gasoline, faint but glowing under his UV light starting on Linda's side of the fence. "She's not talking," he said, "but her trash bin's got 2 more canisters, same brand, bought last week." I just nodded. The evidence was piling up, and Linda was about to learn what happens when you play with fire. That night, the marshal's team knocked on her door at 3 a.m. I watched from the field, arms crossed, as she answered in a white robe, hair messy, eyes wild. She pointed at me, yelling something about that farmer setting her up, But when they showed her the canister, she froze. "That's not mine," she snapped, loud enough for the block to hear. "I threw it out days ago." Evans tilted his head, and I swear I saw him smirk. They didn't arrest her or not. Yeah, but they took her for questioning. The neighborhood lit up, porch lights flicking on, people whispering in their slippers. Greg, the HOA treasurer, looked like he'd seen a ghost. Susan just stared at the ground. Nobody said a word for Linda. The next week, things got louder. A grainy clip from my scarecrow cam hit the local pine, hollow, 4 and 15 seconds of a figure lighting fires, moving with Linda's telltale strut. Nobody blurred her face well enough. The HOA went quiet, no more letters, no more complaints. Linda's BMW stayed parked, her lawn growing shaggy. Then Russo called. The DA was filing charges: felony arson, trespassing, property destruction, even HOA fraud for misusing funds to harass me. The civil suit was moving too, and I was ready to take it all the way. Court day came, and I walked into that chilly courthouse feeling like I was back in the fire station, gearing up for a big one. Russo was in a sharp suit, a little fireman's pin on his tie, and he didn't waste time. He laid it all out. The letters, the vandalism, the footage, the canisters, even HOA minutes where Linda called my farm a fire hazard weeks before the blaze. When he read that quote aloud, the room gasped. Linda's lawyer, some city slicker, tried to spin it as a neighbor dispute, said I provoked her by not playing nice with the HOA. Russo shut that down fast. "My client didn't burn anything," he said, voice like steel. "He didn't plant canisters or fake complaints. He grew soybeans. That's his crime." The judge, a tough old gal named Carter, didn't blink. She ruled for me $152,000 in damages, crop losses, legal fees, the works. The HOA was ordered to back off, no more enforcement on my land. Linda slumped in her chair, her pearl necklace looking like it was choking her. Outside, I climbed in my truck, Rusty wagging his tail, and just sat there, breathing. Not happy, not yet just free. The fallout was fast. Linda's name vanished from the HOA website. Her house hit the market, then foreclosed. The board cracked, Susan quit, Greg spilled about Linda's shady funds, and the HOA got audited. Neighbors started talking to me again, bringing pies, eggs, even a kid with a tiny soybean plant she'd grown from my last harvest. "I wanted to prove them wrong," she said, and damn if that didn't hit me hard. Jenkins brought cookies, said they tasted better than Linda's. By spring, I was planting again, neighbors helping, even Susan showing up with lemonade, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. Linda took a plea: 18 months in a low-security prison, 5 years probation. The HOA rewrote its rules, elected a new board, and sent me a letter promising to respect my land. I pinned it next to my dad's old planting journal, where he'd written, "Keep it whole, Jack. That's what matters." And I did. The field's green again now, soybeans swaying under the sun. I hung my old fire chief's badge on the gatepost, a reminder of what I've fought for, what I've kept. But here's the thing: Linda didn't think she was the villain. She thought she was saving her perfect little world from my messy farm. And that's what sticks with me. How far will someone go when they think they're right? How many of us let people like her run the show because it's easier to stay quiet? I'm not saying I'm hero. I am just a guy who grows beans and fights fires. But I want to hear from you. Have you ever dealt with someone like Linda? Someone who'd burn it all down just to win? Drop it in the comments and let's talk. Because out here, the truth grows back stronger than ever.